Hey, lightworkers. So some years ago, I was driving home in 6 o'clock traffic, and somebody pulled in front of me, or they cut in front of me, and then they slowed down. I was in the fast lane. Okay, so they slowed down. I get kind of mad, but I have this story kind of instantly just download. And it was just like, I don't even know. It was just like, what? But my story was this person in front of me and we are friends on a soul level. And we are both incarnated on this planet right now. And this moment in time is the only time that we will cross paths while we are on this planet. I looked at this person and I thought, what if that is a dear friend? What if that is a dear friend? From the Course in Miracles in Lesson 60, it says, I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. And this is not about forgiving by letting people off the hook. It's just forgiving our own judgments that we have against others. So it's about tuning into the divine in everyone, but mostly we're tuning into the divine within ourselves. If God is all things, that means each of us, every person who comes into our life is an expression of the divine, helping us to remember that we are an expression of the divine. So the divine is always seeking to call forth greater things through all of its creations. We are its creations. But you know what else? All of our interactions are also its creations. So our interactions, our relationships, become holy relationships because we are given the opportunity to create something and experience. And maybe we learn a little bit about ourselves in the process. So right here and now, I want to talk about why I do believe God sends only angels, and I want to talk about this power of the holy relationship. But first, what are our many relationships? But also, there are two ways that we show up to all of our relationships. So our relationships we usually think of as, with people, and it's the interactions that we have with people. But we actually interact with all of life, and anything we interact with, we have a relationship with. So the obvious things we have relationships with, of course, I mentioned our people, our family, our friends, and our pets. But we have a relationship with ourselves. We have a relationship with our way of thinking and acting and what we think about ourselves. We have a relationship with our body. And we either are in our body and we're saying things like, why are you so tired? Or we're saying things like, good job, back and stiff neck. We got through it. We got through this day easily, didn't we? Right? So we have a relationship with our own body. We have a relationship with our pets. We have a relationship with the people that we interact with, even if it's just for a short period of time. You may have stopped and got some coffee this morning. You had a relationship, you had an interaction with your barista. I had an interaction not too long ago with somebody at a four-way stop sign, and he waved me through and I waved thanks. We also have a relationship with our work and our way of being of service in this world. We have a relationship with all the events and conditions in our lives. How we perceive all of these relationships, how we perceive our interactions, is how we are it's how we're relating. So we are in relationship with all things in our life, but we are also in relationship with this. We are in a relationship with the power that creates worlds, that is unfolding through all of those things and all of our interactions. We are in relationship with that. Now, in our daily activity and in our spiritual practices, we may think that we know who we are. Oh, I'm so spiritual because I meditated. I'm so spiritual, because I did some deep breathing, right? But it's our relationships that are really going to point out how we are perceiving our lives and this world. Our relationships will show us if we are showing up in a state of conflict or in our centered self. So these are the two ways we show up to the world. We show up to our life, we show up to our relationships. We have, first of all, being in a state of conflict, right? This is a consciousness of life happens to me and I can't do anything about it. When we are in conflict, we will react to our relationships. People will disappoint us and we won't like conditions and situations, but think that all of those things need to change before we can be happy, before we can find our inner peace. But then there is the consciousness of being in our centered self, the consciousness of life happens as me. Now this consciousness, life happens as me, through me, for me, as me. It happens because we tune in to that power that creates worlds, that is unfolding through everything we interact with. So in a state of conflict, we react to life, but when we are in our centered self, we participate with life. We react to our relationships, or we participate in our relationships. There is a Buddhist teaching that states, if your peace depends on everything going right, that's not peace, that's control. Learning to stay steady in uncertainty is real growth. True peace doesn't wait for life to settle. It stands firm while everything moves. Right? True peace, it stands firm while everything out here is crazy and chaotic. Okay? It stands firm, even when it feels like life is bananas. Now, when we're in conflict, it's in here and it's in here. So if we're in conflict, this is where the work starts in our way of thinking and acting. But guess what? It can be really difficult to just do this like alone, like if we're all on our own. We get to do this work because of our relationships, all those challenges. Those are the angels. Those are the angels. We learn to embody our sacred nature more deeply because our relationships will point out when we're in conflict. So we know we can do something about it. Our relationships, all of our interactions bring us awareness. If we are reacting to life or if we are participating with life. So when we are in conflict, we start right here. And there are many paths to our centered self. But personally, because I am a unity person, I find the most efficient way to move from conflict to my centered self is to live within the unity principles. God is all things, and that means me. We create our experiences through our way of thinking and acting. Prayer, affirmative prayer, and meditation are ways that we can align with the divine within, although there are more, right? But then the fifth principle, we can't just think about these things, we have to live them. So our unity principles are kind of like taking vitamin C for our spiritual immune system, right? It's a healing tonic. When we feel conflict within us, that means there's something happening out there in our life that we don't like. Now, this can be a person that we know, or it can be an event or a condition that we're dealing with. But see, it doesn't have to be just a nearby real life person that we know. Conflict can happen because we're witnessing things on the world stage. That's some scary stuff going on out there, right? So when we are in a state of conflict, we are actually less effective. It's harder to show up as a force for good in our own lives. When we are in a state of conflict, we are less effective because we are reacting instead of responding. We're reacting instead of participating. Now, this consciousness that we can get into is kind of like, have you ever watched a dog rescue video? You know, a rescue they'll find a dog, they'll take it back to, their rescue. And then somebody sits with this pup. And the dog at first is scared and it might snap or bite or like huddle in a corner. It doesn't want to interact. But eventually, around a calm rescuer, the pup will start to trust that person. The pup trusts the person who maintains an inner calm. Now, when we are in a state of conflict, we are like that highly reactive pup. Everything in our life suddenly becomes dangerous. People who don't think like we do become dangerous. Conditions that make us unhappy become dangerous. Everything becomes dangerous because we're in a state of conflict. The Buddhist, I think she's a monk, Pema Chodron, she said, don't let people pull you into their storm. Pull them into your peace. Now we could look at that too as don't let people pull us into their storm, but also don't let all the negativity in the news or social media pull us into that storm. Now, as our centered self, we become a calm resource. So our self in a state of conflict is that nervous, upset, frightened puppy who sees all of life as a danger. As our centered self, we become the calm resource that can pull others into our center of peace. Now, if we start with the unity principles, which I find highly efficient, and these unity principles, they're not something we just made up. They actually come from ancient spiritual teachings. Like you can find these teachings in ancient Egyptian spiritual work. But the unity principles, they help us to move out of conflict because we start with, of course, having to see God as everywhere present. This infinite allness, this infinite oneness, it's all things and all of everything that we can ever imagine, everything that's ever been or yet to be is all contained in this infinite oneness. But here's where it can get tricky. We move on to the second principle. If God is all things, that means me and everybody else. Now, there might be a person or a condition in our life, and we just can't quite get there. We can say it, God is all things, and that means everything, but we may not be feeling the truth of it. I had this happen to me recently. Somebody said something, an acquaintance of mine said something just so deeply hateful. I really wanted to react to it, and I wanted to set him straight. And I'm so thankful I was working on this because I could not see the presence of the divine within that person. I could not see this person enfolded in the divine or the divine unfolding through him. So this can happen. This can happen to us, right? We can say it out loud, God is all things, and that means this thing I hate, but we may not be feeling the truth of it. So I'm going to invite you to try something that I did, and it worked, right? As you are perceiving this person or this condition that you are interacting with in some way, look at that person and condition in this way, that it's not actually them you're interacting with. It's not the person, it's the power that creates worlds that is unfolding through them, right? Not them personally. Now we can see the divine as the center of our experience. Now we are liberated. Now we are set free. God sends only angels so that we can recognize when we're in the prison of our own making, and then we can become liberated. Every relationship is a holy relationship because we are learning to recognize what we are really made of. Every relationship gives us clarity because we can ask ourselves, how did I just show up for that? Okay, we don't have to like somebody. We don't have to be around them. But when we remember God sends only angels, when we can remember that the power that creates the worlds is at work in all of these interactions, we are set free. We're liberated so that we can be in our calm center and pull others into our peace. So here's our call to action for this week. I'll start with our affirmation. God sends only angels. God sends only angels. God sends only angels. We will never experience freedom if we are in conflict. Conflict creates a prison. We experience freedom when we align. We align by knowing God is an everywhere present force. It's an allness. And everything is contained within this allness. It is unfolding through everything it contains. Its divine presence is eternal. So we participate instead of reacting. We are showing up to our life. Rumi says this, lovely days don't come to you. You must walk to them. Meaning we just don't sit and wait for things to change or get better. We show up to our life. We participate in all of our relationships. And we pay attention to those angels. We pay attention to the angels. Was I just reacting? Right? How did I show up just now? This is our invitation for this week. How did I show up just now? What if God sends me only angels and they help me recognize when I'm in a prison? What if this life, what if this world, what if this heart of mine is showing me how to open doors and call forth greater good? Remember right here in this moment, remember why you are doing all this work. Remember why you are listening to things like this. We're doing that because this life and this world and this heart of ours, it's showing us how to show up in the biggest way. It is showing us when we are in a prison of our own making. It is showing us how we find freedom. And it is showing us how to create heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this. You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.